Hey guys, how's it? My Gray here. Welcome back to the channel. And it's been a while, it's been a long while on the channel, and so many different things have happened. So much tech has come out, school has been going on, so many different things. And I've been thinking of different thoughts and ideas and topics to make videos on. But there's one thought that has been pressing lately, and it came up during a conversation with a friend. I just thought to make a video on it since it was something that I'm really interested in, and hopefully you guys are interested in it. So it's the topic of, it's a discussion really of, is there really a difference between a film and a movie? Now, the two words are typically used interchangeably. Like, you may hear a friend say, "Oh, I went to see this film at the cinema," or "I went to see this movie at the cinema or at the theater," or something like that. But I've recently started to consider when to actually use those words. Like, okay, if I saw a particular production by a particular director and a particular film company, would I call this a film? And if I saw another production, would I call this a movie? Of course, choosing to make an entire video on distinguishing between a particular word and another would mean that I personally have set a distinguishing barrier between these two words. And in this discourse, we're talking about the word film and the word movie. So I'm just trying to, you can look at this video as maybe a way of me trying to get you to understand my perspective on why I'm thinking these two words are actually different. So I'd like to also elaborate and, start with the notion of me choosing to distinguish what work or what masterpiece or what creation or what production is a movie or is a film is more or less a generalized personal sentiment. It's not based on a set standard of rules or particular regulations or particular facts that say, oh, for this if you see this in a particular production, then it becomes a film. If you see this in a particular production, then it becomes a movie, right? It's just me trying to get you people to understand my view. Now take a look at the following examples.
Wait. There. Now I'm ready. I'm ready now.
So these videos, they're from certain productions, right? They don't necessarily have similar themes or similar plots or similar characters necessarily. But when I watched the entire production for one video, it felt more like a film than when I watched the entire production for the other, which felt more like a movie, right? All right, considering the examples I chose for this discourse or for this part of the discourse, most people would argue that it comes down to which production takes on a much more serious plot or a much more serious storyline, or which one has, more serious characters within it. So let's look at examples that are from the same director or the same film company, but one came off more as a film and the other came off more as a movie. And let me see if you can share that understanding.
Thank you. I need your help. I need you to find someone. Why are you always so suspicious?
Shall I answer chronologically or alphabetically?
Careful not to cut yourself on this lethal envelope. I think you'll find all the information you need inside.
Who are you working for?
So sorry to keep you waiting. You don't look like you slept much last night, Mr. Devaney.
Funny you should say that, Madame Vigiguero. I don't think this scotch is helping either. If I were a suspicious man, I would say you put something in my drink.
It's much easier to trust a drink you fixed yourself.
But how do you know I was going to drink the scotch?
I didn't. I laced all the drinks. I don't like to leave much to chance, Mr. Solo.
So both of these examples that I just showed you are directed by the same director, and they both have serious plots. I mean, if you were to watch the entire movie, you kind of understand what I'm saying, or the entire film, you can understand what I'm saying. But one, it visually speaks film, while the other visually speaks movie. Or it just comes off, it's just a feeling rather. Like I said, it's a sentiment. Okay, so now let's move on to a much more understandable area of this thought, if you've been following me. So I consider certain directors filmmakers, while I consider certain directors movie makers. So Guy Ritchie, who is a really good director, he's the one who directed Sherlock Holmes, the adaptation with Robert Downey Jr. He also directed The Wrath of Man, that had Jason Statham. And then we have the Russo brothers, who, you know, have been involved in the Captain America projects. They were involved, they're basically the ones who directed Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. I consider the former, Guy Ritchie, a filmmaker, while I consider the other a movie maker. Now, for the number of times I've watched the movies I mentioned made by Guy Ritchie, like Sherlock Holmes, or or The Wrath of Man, I just feel like one came off with an intentional sense of making a film, while the other came off with a sense of just trying to make a movie for the big screen, right? So once again, let's now consider two other directors whom I consider one of which I consider a filmmaker and the other I consider a movie maker. And these directors are Guillermo del Toro. I hope I pronounced the name rightly. No, I'm not too sure. Okay, but Guillermo del Toro, who, if some of you may know him, and he was the one who made the movie Nightmare Alley, or the film Nightmare Alley, while we have someone like James Gunn, who is the one who made the Suicide Squad movie, the one who came out last year in 2021, and he's also the one who made the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Now, if you were to when you watch both of their productions, for me, it always came off as Mr. Del Toro is a filmmaker. He makes films, right? Even the Cabinet of Curiosities that he's about to make, which I think was based off a podcast that I used to listen to on Apple Podcasts. That is going to be, even though it's a short series, but it's a series of films to me. While the productions that James Gunn has brought out, like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, Volume 1 and Volume 2, even the Suicide Squad movie, those ones felt like movies. You notice how I'm using the word movies for James Gunn's productions and the word film for Mr. Del Toro's productions. Okay, so there are quite a number of areas I can go into to buttress my point and to show you guys why I think certain productions or certain creations are movies, and why others I think are films. But let me give you guys a proper backdrop as to why I thought to make a video on this. So what happened was, when I was watching the Werewolf by Night, the special that Marvel released like a few weeks back, I think, which was really nice to me. I like the cinematography, and I like the way Marvel actually took like a whole new bold step on making something like that, like they kind of did with Eternals, but we know that wasn't really successful, which I still think Eternals was a great movie. What happened was, I told my other friend, there were two friends sitting beside me, and I told my other friend that the Werewolf by Night is actually a film, and then something like Eternals is actually a movie, right? I was interrupted by my other friend who said films actually deal with aesthetic, right? While movies don't deal with aesthetic, right? Or films are generally made to be visually charming, to show a huge intent on producing with great cinematography. For example, take the movie Hamlet. You see the contrast, you see the colors and everything, the one with Michael Fassbender. And then you take maybe something like The Grey Man, for example. It's quite colorful, it has great lighting, great cinematography, but there's a clear, distinct intent between what makes one a film, at least in my opinion, and what makes the other a movie. Now, you may also argue that it comes down to like the plot, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, of course, one has a plot, one has a much more serious plot, which is probably why they went with such a whole different perspective on cinematography, while the other is more of the action that we kind of seen in previous movies, right? So essentially what I'm saying is, films focus a lot on visual charm, right? To be visually charming. They focus a lot on iconic yet mature editing, right? Like take a look at the snorri cams that Guy Ritchie uses a lot in his movies, and then they also focus a lot on a directorial philosophy. Like Quentin Tarantino is actually a filmmaker, right? If you look at Django Unchained, you look at even Kill Bill, you can see like or Inglourious Basterds, you can see how he tries to communicate his philosophy in whatever he makes, right, in the films he's produced. So while movies on the other hand, they tend to focus on excitable scenery, like take a look at maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, how the beautiful shots and the scenes in space and the battles and all of that. They also try to focus on very what's the word I used? I said memorable events, right? Like Captain America's scene where he said Avengers assemble. That is a movie. Those are movies, right? That speaks movie to me. So if you made it to the end of this video, I really want to thank you for watching. I'm glad to have been able to bring this thought that I've had for quite a while, like a few weeks now, and bring it to video and try and share with you guys. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. If you agreed with my perspective or my take on the difference between films and movies, I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments. If you don't, I'd like to know also why you don't consider them to be separate terms or separate types of productions, basically. So kindly leave a like on this video if you haven't, kindly subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.